What's going on YouTube? Mr. Wheels here once again, welcoming you to another edition of Sports Talk. This is part 4 of my 2015-2016 NHL season preview. Doing things a little bit differently in this part of the preview. Going to talk a little bit about the Pacific Division, a little quicker than the other videos, and then going to give a recap of my other 3 videos, tell you who I think is going to place 1, 2, 3 in each division, and probably win what teams are probably going to win the wild card. Now, as always, please remember to give this video a like. My social media links will be in the description down below, and I will have links through the video of my other 3 parts to this series. Now, let's start with the Anaheim Ducks. They're probably the early season favorite on paper to win the Pacific Division, but I don't think they're a runaway favorite. I have questions about their goaltending, Frederik Andersen and John Gibson. I don't think Frederik Andersen is as good as everyone thinks he is. And, you know, he had a decent playoff run, but I have questions about their goaltending. You know, they did add Kevin Bieksa and Carl Hagelin, but the thing with the Anaheim Ducks is 2 years ago, I thought they had one of the best bottom 6 forward groups in the NHL. Guys like Daniel Winnick, Nick Bonino, Matt Bolesky, Emerson Edom, and, you know, over the last 2 years, they broke that core group of bottom 6 forwards up, and now, in my opinion, their bottom 6 isn't as good. So what does that mean for a playoff run and ultimately contending for the Stanley Cup? I don't think they're a good enough team. You know, they could run away with the division. You could say that in the regular season, but the regular season isn't the playoffs. And honestly, I think the rest of the division, even the teams that were horrible last season, have gotten better. Let's move on to Los Angeles. Now, Los Angeles lost Justin Williams, Jared Stahl, Mike Richards. Now, Stahl and Richards ended up having some off-ice problems. They lose a veteran leader and 3-time Stanley Cup champion in my buddy Justin Williams. But the Kings did add, most notably, Milan Lucic. And Lucic, in my opinion, is a guy that could really come in and you know, do wonders for the room as a leader. And he definitely fits into their style of play. Big, physical, power forward type player. You know, the other question is, are they going to have Slava Voynov back? And even if they don't, the Kings just added some defensive depth, signing Christian Ehrhoff to a 1-year deal. So I think, you know, when you talk about LA, people don't give them enough credit. You know, there's a team like Anaheim, who I'm sure a lot of people hype, and then there's a team like LA who's never won a division title, but I think this year they could at least finish second in the division. And I think they will win the division this year. I think they are that good of a team. And I think when you look at the division as a whole, Anaheim isn't going to be where people think they're going to be. And I think LA is going to win the Pacific Division. Anaheim will probably be second. Let's move on to Calgary. Now, this is a team that surprised a lot of people last season. You know, in my opinion, they are third place in the Pacific Division is their spot to win. And, you know, they've added Dougie Hamilton and they've kept their core group of guys together. They have solid goaltending in Jonas Hiller and Kari Romo. They're going to have Mark Giordano back. I don't see this team getting any worse. It's whether they can sustain their success. And I see them really doing no worse than third in the division, and I think they will compete for that division title, but the safe bet is third in the division. I think they're good enough to not be in the wild card conversation, and they will give teams like Anaheim and LA a run for their money. Let's move on to the San Jose Sharks. This is a team that really regressed last year, and I could really see a turnaround, at least in their offensive game this year. The Sharks added Paul Martin on defense and Joel Ward on as a forward. Those are the two most notable additions to the team. They did lose Antti Niemi to Dallas, and Martin Jones is now, they added him in net, and, that is the biggest question for the San Jose Sharks, is their goaltending. Is Martin Jones the number one goalie? I don't think he's as good as he may seem. Alex Stalock he's a capable backup. Not anything to write home about. But to me, San Jose is going to do better than teams like Vancouver, Edmonton, and Arizona. So when talking about where San Jose is going to finish in terms of the division, I don't think they'll be in the 1 to 3 spot. But I could definitely see them being a team that could really make a run at a first Western Conference wild card, and possibly that third divisional spot. But they're definitely a bubble team, and definitely better. The San Jose Sharks are definitely better than the next team I want to talk about, the Vancouver Canucks. Now, Vancouver had 101 points last season, but to me, Vancouver is a hard team for me to get behind personally because, ever since they didn't win the Cup in 2010, they've had a bit of a toxic culture there, in my opinion, and it bleeds into the way their fans think. Their fans last year thought Eddie Lack was like the second coming. They thought Eddie Lack was the greatest thing, they thought they were going to make a long run in the playoffs, and it didn't happen, and I knew it wasn't going to happen. And now, they've lost Eddie Lack, and, Jacob Markstrom is their backup goalie, and the big question is, what kind of season is Ryan Miller going to have? Vancouver, when you look at goaltending, probably has the third best starting goaltender in the league, maybe even second behind Jonathan Quick, in my opinion. Overall, their goaltending really isn't that good because in recent years we haven't seen, the type of play we're used to seeing from Ryan Miller, and I'm still kind of upset that John Tortorella didn't work out in Vancouver. He said that in order for teams to be good, they have to block shots and sacrifice. And as long as the Sedins are in Vancouver, I don't see them making a very strong push towards a playoff spot. The Pacific Division is now too good. Those top three teams that I've talked about, in my opinion, LA, Anaheim, and Calgary, they're all better than Vancouver. San Jose is better than Vancouver. Edmonton could really shock people. So other than Arizona, don't be surprised if Vancouver winds up last in the Pacific Division. It wouldn't surprise me at all. Let's move on. I want to talk about Edmonton just briefly. Now, there's a lot of hype around Connor McDavid, and I'm not saying he's not a bad player, but I don't know what he's really going to add to the team. moving forward, he's going to need a couple years before they're really, and everyone else is going to have to stay with them. The Taylor Halls, the Jordan Everlys, the Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, all those guys that they accumulated and have signed, they're going to have to keep them to really have a chance in the division they're in. I really don't see Edmonton really making a push towards the playoffs. They'll be an exciting team to watch, and I am excited to watch them because Connor McDavid, has so much hype around them. But I don't see them being in the playoffs at all. Maybe the wild card, maybe, but I doubt it. Let's move on to the last team, Arizona. Now, this is a team that their success this year, in my opinion, relies on how long Max Domi, Dylan Strome, and Anthony Duclair are all going to play in the NHL. I don't even know if all of those guys are NHL ready. I would say Max Domi and maybe Dylan Strome are the two most NHL ready out of the three of them. We know they're going to probably play in the preseason, and those 10 games, 10 to 15 games that they're allowed before the big club has to make a decision on them. So really, if they all stay up with the Coyotes this season and don't go back to junior or don't go to the AHL, then Arizona could significantly improve. But I think they're more of a team of the future. They're a team that is building towards the future. They have some good veteran players there right now, but they're not going to be there for the next 2 to 3 to 5 years down the road. So it wouldn't even be a bad idea for Arizona to look towards the lottery pick again this year and try to get Austin Matthews, who is the next projected first overall pick. Now, that's my wrap up on my NHL preview, but and it wraps up my look at the Pacific Division. But I just quickly want to go back over who I think is going to win every division. Now, and this might be something different than what I said in the previous three videos, but let's look at the Atlantic Division, the three divisional spots. I honestly think the Detroit Red Wings, my Detroit Red Wings, are good enough this year to make a run at that first divisional spot. For those of you that are in the know, Pavel Datsyuk is going to be out for the start of the season. But adding guys like Brad Richards and Mike Green takes pressure off their defense. The top pairing of Cromwell and Eriksson. And Brad Richards will probably end up playing with, he's their second line center, and in the beginning of the season, Henrik Zetterberg and Gus Nyquist will be on the line together. So Richards will probably play with Johan Franzen or Thomas Yarko and Tomas Tatar. I just think overall Detroit has a good chance of winning the Atlantic. In second place in the Atlantic, I really think Tampa Bay will get that second spot, and they will contend for the Atlantic Division title, no question. It's Montreal and how Alex Semin will fit into their lineup this year that I have questions about. Semin is a guy who could be really bad for a team, and I honestly see Montreal taking a step back in that third division. let's move on to the Metropolitan Division. I see it as Washington. Honestly, I think they're one of the deepest teams in the Eastern Conference. They're my favorite to win the Stanley Cup, or make a long cup run. In second, I have the New York Rangers, largely because of their defense and their goaltending. And if you want to know more about that, watch my Metropolitan Division preview. In third, I honestly see the Islanders getting in there because honestly, I don't think Pittsburgh is going to be as good as people think they are. That is my point about the Metropolitan Division. They've gotten better. Pittsburgh got better as well, but I don't see Pittsburgh winning it. Third in the division, maybe. While they're better, they're more of a wild card team in my opinion. That's just based on what they've done the last couple years. I don't care if Phil Kessel's there. Let's move on to the Central Division. And given the players that the Chicago Blackhawks have lost, Patrick Kane, Johnny Oduya, guys like that, Brandon Saad, I still think they're good enough to win the Central Division. And the team that's really going to be possibly disappointing out of that division is St. Louis, because they were probably good enough on paper to say they're going to win the division. But Patrick Berglund and Yuri Watera are going to be out the first couple months of the season. So I think St. Louis will finish in third. I think Minnesota will probably, their best bet is the wild card, or they don't even make the playoffs. I don't think they're good enough. I think they've lost too many players. And again, if you want to know more about it, you want me to go into more detail, watch my Central Division preview. So I basically have, Detroit, in my opinion, Detroit winning the Atlantic, Washington winning the Metropolitan Division, Chicago winning the Central, and LA winning the Pacific. And, I think it's going to be Chicago and Washington in the Cup final. I really do. Not to say that Detroit won't be there, not to say that Anaheim won't make it probably to the conference final. I just think that Chicago and Washington will end up there in the Cup final. That's my opinion. Anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Hope I didn't rant too long. Be sure to give it a like. Check out my links in the description. I'll see you next time.